my opinion is I think this is a very tough call, but there's a politics and then there's the issue involving more than anything else, the actual use of these weapons. First, I have to agree with Gene. First of all, in the conduct of foreign policy and certainly the conduct of a war, with very few limitations, the statutes provided, and that's the realm of the president. He's absolutely right about that. The thing is, though, is the contradiction here. This is a little bit of the politics. 2 years ago, Jen Psaki, when she was an official in the Biden administration, said the use of cluster bombs by anyone would be a war crime. So I guess we're committing war crimes according to that standard at the time. Secondly, I think the president, that's another segment coming up here, is his judgment is clouded and his judgment is poor. In a television interview, he said that munitions were low, not only in Ukraine, but in the United States. This is something I don't think you publicize. It certainly is true that the war is going poorly in Ukraine. And now this escalation, I think, needs to be asked by whether Republicans or Democrats is what's the end game here? Because again, 2 years ago, this was a war crime. Remember when we were talking about air support and so forth, it was off the table? So these questions need to be asked, and I don't think there is a clear game plan. It's day by day. The president also said he's conferred with the allies. I watched an interview last night on Spanish television from Spain, the Spanish foreign minister. She was extremely critical of the decision of the United States, and Spain is a key ally. Lastly, I think this has been poorly handled, and it wouldn't have been this way in the Trump administration. I think the amount of assistance, particularly on the armaments from our European allies, should have been demanded to be much higher than they are now. The president is now saying that we're low on munitions. We have been for some time even before this conflict. So a lot of questions here about the conduct of this war, which there is no clear plan for the role of the United States. It's a day by day decisions that are being made, and I think this is very dangerous for the country.
Far be it from me to defend cluster munitions. They're among the most reprehensible munitions ever used in war, ever created. But if we're going to look at Biden's calculus here, and by that I emphasize calculus alone, I'm not justifying the use of these weapons at all. They are destroying children even some 50 years after the Vietnam War has ended. But if you're looking at his calculations, the war is not progressing as quickly as possible. It is, if you squint, a proxy war with Russia. Ukraine has not gotten a lot of the stuff on its wish list in a prompt and timely manner. This supposedly is supposed to be one way to advance Ukrainians' interests, therefore protect Western Europe, therefore defeat the war and end it as quickly as possible. I mean, the same kind of calculus used when we dropped the atomic weapon in Hiroshima to end the war quickly, save lives. That's the theory that they're operating under. The other theory that they're operating under is that since the Vietnam War, since the end of the Vietnam War, these cluster munitions have become more advanced and more precise, which is kind of an oxymoron if you look at it too closely. The third point they're trying to make is that the U.S. has used the munitions in Afghanistan and Iraq, so within the last half of the 21st century, and the Russians are currently using these cluster munitions as we speak. So if you look at all these calculations, you can kind of understand why Biden came to the conclusion that he did.